The KONKR brand is a lower price range from Android and PC handheld gaming manufacturers Ioneo. Let's find out in our KONKR Pocket FIT review how this lower cost Android handheld compares to its more expensive counterparts. The KONKR Pocket FIT measures around 10 by 3.5 by 0.6 inches, with the grips adding a little extra thickness to 1.1 inches. It weighs around 386 grams. This is the Dragon Yellow model, and it will also be available in Phantom Black and Snow White colours. The front is mostly taken up by the 6-inch LCD touchscreen with a 1920 by 1080 resolution running up to 144 Hz. You will notice some difference when compared to the higher end OLED found on the Ioneo Pocket DS for example, but at this lower cost some compromises need to be made. On the left and right sides of the display we have the usual gaming controls, including what is now pretty much standard across handhelds, Hall effect joysticks. Towards the bottom are two pairs of buttons for select and start, and shortcuts to the iSpace overlay and home screen. On the bottom we have a covered microSD card to expand the storage. There's a 3.5mm headphone jack and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C, which supports charging and video output to a suitable adapter or hub. The top has left and right Hall effect triggers that have switches to analog and digital modes for racing and first person shooters respectively, and off centre are the volume and power buttons. The back features two grip areas which are smooth plastic with no texture. There are two macro buttons which can be configured in the software, and last but not least, the two switches for the triggers. Overall, the quality of the materials and comfortability feels good, although the grips are a little too smooth to properly grip onto. Visually, I think it looks the part, especially the all-glass front side of the handheld. There is a choice of two CPU models for the KONKR Pocket FIT. The first uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon G3 Gen 3 gaming platform with Adreno A33 GPU, first used in the Ioneo Pocket S2. The second is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is a newer CPU that we will be seeing more of in the coming months. We are reviewing the Gen 3 G3 model, and we will compare the performance with the 8 Elite model once it's available. For RAM, both models support 8, 12 and 16 gigs LPDDR5X, with the 8 Elite supporting up to a massive 24 gigs of RAM. And for storage, depending on the RAM size, there is 128, 256, 512 gigs and a massive 1TB UFS storage. For communications, there is fast Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.3. In our battery life test, we ran Antutu on a loop at full brightness on the max performance mode. The 8000 mAh battery life on full usage was around 2 hours 33 minutes. Average battery life will of course be higher, depending on the game you can expect a good 8 to 6 hours. Whilst conducting the battery life test, we also checked the fan noise and temperatures. We got a high of 66 decibels, average was barely audible, and on eco mode the fan is switched off. We saw a highest temperature of around 48 degrees C. We ran a series of benchmark tests to put them against other models as a comparison. We have the Pocket Ace and Pocket S previous generation models, and the latest generation Pocket S2 with the same processor. For the general Android benchmarking to Antutu, we see scores in line with the Pocket S2 at around 2.1 million. You could probably run it a few times and get similar results, so well within the margin of error. And with 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme benchmark, we again see great scores for the Pocket FIT when compared with the Pocket S2. And with Geekbench 6, which tests the CPU single multi-core performance, we see pretty much the same scores on both results. Overall, I would say roughly the same performance as the premium Ioneo Pocket S2. The G3 model runs Android 14 and the 8 Elite model runs Android 16. The iSpace app is a well-established piece of software, and thankfully the more premium experience found on the Ioneo handhelds has been passed down to the KONKR. You have the iSpace app for setting up your ROM and app collection, IO settings for configuring on the device for its performance levels, controller, device spoofing and firmware updates. You also have the iSpace overlay, which gives you shortcuts to commonly used functions such as changing the performance and controller types, screen settings, screen mapping and more. Top marks here for value for money in this budget area, as the iOS software does stand out. We know from our Pocket S2 review that this Gen 3 processor can handle just about everything thrown at it for Android gaming. We We tried a bunch of different games ranging from the fairly basic Dan the Man up to more demanding games such as Alien Isolation and Prince of Persia. We had no issues at all with the performance. You can even spoof the device to a Xiaomi 15 Pro to unlock higher graphic settings. And of course, for games with no controller support, you can configure the screen mapping software and assign the gaming controls to on-screen presses. The Gen 3 processor will happily run just about every emulator up to the most demanding ones with no issues. All of your 8-bit right up to the PS2 era will work perfectly, providing the games are compatible with the emulator. And of course, you can improve visuals with graphics tweaks such as increasing the rendering resolution to 1080p, or in most cases 4K if output into a monitor. Let's take a look at some of the more demanding emulators. The dual screen emulator Asaha, performance-wise, runs perfectly. You can increase the rendering resolution up to 1080p and higher on a 4K display. You may get very minor shader cache drops in some games now and again, but nothing game breaking. The Vita emulator Vita 3K runs amazingly well on this CPU. We can increase the rendering resolution up to 2x for the internal display with a few graphics tweaks. And depending on the game, you can also go higher on your TV. The Eden emulator continues to improve over time, and we are seeing some amazing performance now. Low to mid demanding games should run very well, and you can run in docked mode at 60 FPS in most cases. For first party titles we can't mention, you will find very impressive performance. Popular action RPGs are running great at playable levels, for example. The KONKR Pocket FIT is overall a great device if you are on a budget but require a very high performance device. And let's be honest, who doesn't want a high performance device? We saw some top tier scores in our benchmarks when compared with the premium iNeo Pocket S2 with the same processor. Considering the price is around 58% difference, that is an excellent price versus performance statistic. The overall feel of the Pocket FIT is good, and the grips on the back are very welcome, if lacking some texture. The lack of grips on the Pocket S2 was one of my downsides, so the Pocket FIT kind of wins here if you are comparing. The display is perhaps the biggest difference. We get a 6-inch LCD display at 1080p 144Hz with the Pocket FIT, and a slightly larger 6.3-inch IPS at 1440p 60Hz with the S2. There are positives and negatives with both. Comparing the displays side by side, the Pocket S2 does look more vibrant and supports up to 1440p instead of 1080p, but only has 60Hz refresh rate instead of up to 144Hz on the Pocket FIT. Personally, I think the KONKR Pocket FIT is a great alternative to the premium iNeo Pocket S2. The performance and comfortability is matched, quality in terms of feel is a little lower, and the display choice is down to personal preference. If you are on a budget, this should be first on your list. You can learn more about the KONKR Pocket FIT as well as the Pocket S2 and order yours today at DROIX. Visit droix.co.uk, droix.eu and droix.net for UK, EU and worldwide shipping. That wraps up our KONKR Pocket FIT review. We hope you have found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe and like before you go. It helps to continue growing our channel and we can keep making videos. Thanks.